All right, let's dive right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the foundational vocabulary you absolutely need to succeed in the USA truck dispatching market. Because, get this, here's a wild fact to kick things off. Trucks actually move over 70% of all freight in the United States. So, whether you're looking to become a professional truck dispatcher or, you just want to understand the massive logistics machine keeping the country running, you've got to start with the language.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're covering the basics: freight and load, shippers and consignees, brokers versus dispatchers, carriers and drivers, and finally, how all of this connects in the complete trucking cycle. Let's get to it.
So here's the big question, right? Who actually moves America's freight? I mean, when you see one of those massive 18-wheelers rolling down the highway, it's pretty easy to think it's just a driver and a truck. But behind that single vehicle is an entire cast of characters working behind the scenes to make that movement possible, legal, and most importantly, profitable. Section 1. USA Trucking Basics, the foundation of the industry.
Moving on to Section 2, Freight, Load, and Commodity. What exactly are we moving?
Okay, so freight and load. These are the actual physical goods being transported by a truck from an origin to a destination. And honestly, people in the industry use these two terms pretty interchangeably all the time. Think of these items as the core asset of the entire trucking industry. Without freight, well, there are no trucks on the road, no brokers, and definitely no dispatchers. Every single process we're going to talk about today completely revolves around getting this load safely and efficiently from point A to point B.
Now, when we talk about what specifically is inside that load, we use the word commodity. And there's a massive variety out there in the market. A commodity could be, general freight and boxes, which usually get moved in a standard enclosed trailer called a dry van. Or it could be food and frozen produce, which absolutely requires a temperature-controlled trailer. We call that a reefer. Or maybe it's steel, lumber, heavy machinery, things that require an open flatbed trailer. And this right here is exactly why one dispatcher's job can look totally different from another's. The commodity completely dictates the exact type of equipment you need for the job.
Section 3. Shippers and consignees. The starting line and the finish line. First up, we have the shipper. The shipper is the entity, facility, or warehouse where the freight actually originates and is physically picked up by the truck. Picture a massive Amazon warehouse, or maybe a local farming facility. This is point A. It's where the entire logistical journey begins. The shipper has a product they need to get out into the world, so they initiate the demand for a truck.
And on the other side of that equation, we have the consignee. The consignee is the final destination facility or the customer where the load is successfully delivered. This is point B, the endpoint that's eagerly waiting for that delivery. Now, once the truck arrives here and the freight is unloaded, the driver gets a proof of delivery document, or POD. Pay really close attention to that acronym. The POD is literally the golden ticket. It means the job is done and, way more importantly, it means everyone gets paid.
Section 4. Brokers versus dispatchers, the matchmakers in the middle.
So since shippers and consignees rarely talk directly to the trucks themselves, they use a broker. A broker is the middleman who holds the shipper's freight and connects it to available trucks. Think of it kind of like this. The shipper tells the broker, "Hey, I have 40,000 pounds of frozen food that needs to go from Dallas to Atlanta right now." The broker acts as the bridge. They don't actually own any trucks themselves. Instead, they have this load that urgently needs transportation, and they'll post that load on digital load boards to find a truck.
And that brings us to the dispatcher. If the broker represents the freight, the dispatcher is the professional who represents the truck. Honestly, think of a dispatcher as a sports agent, but for the truck. They are out there fighting for the best possible contract for their client, the driver. A dispatcher is going to search load boards, find the broker's posting, call them up, negotiate the best possible rates, and manage the entire trip. The dispatcher's primary job? To advocate for the truck and secure the absolute most profitable loads possible. They're the strategic brains keeping the truck moving efficiently. So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding this dynamic. The broker works to move the shipper's freight efficiently and cost-effectively, but the dispatcher works to keep the carrier's truck highly profitable. When a dispatcher calls a broker, it's essentially a daily tug-of-war. The broker wants to cover the load for a lower, cheaper rate, and the dispatcher wants to push that rate way up to a premium to make sure their truck makes great money. Understanding exactly who represents whom is fundamental to making it in this industry.
Section 5. Carriers, owners, and drivers, the movers on the ground.
The legal distinction here is vital. A carrier is the official trucking company with the active operating authority from the government, basically the legal permission to transport goods.
A carrier could be massive and have 1,000 trucks, or just one. An owner-operator, on the other hand, is an independent entrepreneur. This is an individual who legally owns their own truck and drives it themselves. They are both the business owner and the boots on the ground.
And finally, we have the driver. This is the professional physically sitting behind the wheel, moving the load from pickup to delivery. Keep in mind, while an owner-operator is a driver can also just be a dedicated employee of a larger carrier. The dispatcher communicates directly with the driver to make sure they know exactly when to pick up the load, what the commodity actually is, and where they're going. The driver is the one actually out there dealing with the traffic, the unpredictable weather, and the physical heavy lifting, all guided by the dispatcher.
Section 6. The complete trucking cycle. Connecting the ecosystem.
Now, let's watch this perfect workflow in action. Step 1, the shipper has a commodity ready to go. Step 2, they give it to the broker, who posts that load online. Step 3, the dispatcher sees the load, calls the broker, and negotiates a great rate. Step 4, the dispatcher assigns the load to the carrier, and the driver physically picks it up. And Step 5, the driver safely delivers the freight to the consignee. The paperwork gets signed, that golden POD is secured, everyone gets paid, and boom, the dispatcher immediately starts looking for the next load to keep the cycle going. It's a beautiful, completely interconnected system.
I want to leave you with this really powerful distinction from our source material today. A beginner asks, what is the rate for this load? But a professional dispatcher asks, how profitable is this load considering total miles, deadhead, schedule, market, and the next load? Knowing these terms we just covered is just the baseline. The real question is, are you just going to ask for a rate, or are you ready to use this language to engineer a truly profitable logistics empire? The road is open. So, are you ready to drive?